Across Cultures by Elizabeth Sharman. Published by Longman. Module 1. Everyday Life. 1A. 2 ordinary days. Exercises 6 and 7. Hi! How was your day? Did you survive?
Oh, yes. It was fine, thanks.
Did you find the college okay?
Yes, that was no problem. It's right in the centre of town.
Did you get the number 32 bus like I said?
Yes, but it was a bit embarrassing because I didn't know where to get a ticket from. At home you buy them from newsagents' shops, so I went into a shop to buy a ticket, but they didn't know what I was talking about.
Oh, I should have told you that. You just pay on the bus.
Well, I know that now. Oh, and another embarrassing thing happened. I met some English girls at lunchtime at the college, and I tried to kiss them when we were introduced. It's normal in my country, but I think they were a bit surprised.
Oh, I think they were probably pleased, really. But you're right. We don't really tend to kiss strangers in this country. Was there anything else that you found strange?
No, I don't think so. Some things are different from home, but better. Like at lunchtime, I could go out and buy things and go to the bank. You can't do that at home because everything's closed between 12 and 3.
1C. Modern Families. Exercise 8.
My name's James, and I live with my mum and my stepfather. I've got a sister, Rachel, but I also live with my stepsister, Louise. She's lived with us for 2 years, since Mum married Richard, her father. Richard's okay. I like him a lot. He's really friendly to Rachel and me, but he doesn't pretend that he's our dad. But I find my stepsister really difficult. She's older than Rachel and me, and she tries to tell us what to do all the time. But she's living in our house. Sometimes she invites lots of her friends round to the house, so Rachel and I can't get into the kitchen or watch what we want to on TV. And when we complain to Mum about it, she just says that it's Louise's home too now, and that we should try to understand her problems. And if we have an argument, Richard always believes her and not us. It's not fair.
1E. Time out. Exercise 4.
What's this, Kirsten?
Oh, it's a survey I got from school. I have to fill it in tonight.
Looks interesting. Why don't we do it now while we're having this coffee? I can read you the questions.
Okay, I guess so.
Right. Now, how often do you do these activities? You have to say often, sometimes, or never.
Okay.
Aerobics.
Never.
Computer activities.
Often.
Definitely often. You're always on the computer. Now, cooking. Well, I can answer that for you. Never.
Okay, you're right. Never.
Cycling.
Never.
Dancing. Often.
No, I like dancing, but I wouldn't say I went dancing often. Put sometimes.
Okay, now, going to the movies. Well, you go every Saturday night, so is that often or sometimes?
I would say often. Let's put that.
Okay. What about reading?
Sometimes.
And shopping?
Often.
Swimming? Never.
No, that's not true. I do go swimming in the summer, quite a lot.
Okay, so we'll put sometimes for swimming. What about walking?
What? Walking for pleasure? Are you kidding? Never.
And finally, watching TV.
Well, I often watch TV. Who doesn't? Is that it then?
No. Next, you have to number the activities that you do in order, with number 1 as your favorite. So you have to number these activities. computer activities, dancing, going to the movies, reading, shopping, swimming, and watching TV.
Let me see. Well, computer activities are definitely number 1, followed by shopping. Third is, I think, watching TV, and then dancing. What number am I on now?
5.
Okay, so 5 is going to the movies, 6 is reading, and swimming is last. Is that everything?
I'm afraid not. Just one more question. Which other activities do you do in your free time that aren't listed above?
Well, I work in the coffee shop. Do you think that counts?
Sure. I don't see why not. You spend a lot of time there.
Okay, then. Let's put working in a coffee shop. Going on dates.
Okay.
Okay, that's got to be everything.
Module 2. Habitats and Homelands. 2A. 4 Nations. Exercises 7 and 8.
Hi, my name's Dean Morgan and I'm Welsh. I come from Swansea in the south of Wales. I'm 16. I think of myself as Welsh first, then British. I don't think of myself as European at all.
I'm Claire Wright. I'm 15 and I come from Southampton, in England. I think of myself as British first, and then as English. And I'm European too. It's important to feel part of Europe these days.
I'm Jason MacArthur from Northern Ireland. I'm 17 and I live in Belfast. I think of myself as both Irish and British, but I don't feel that I'm European.
Hello, my name's Emma Daniels and I'm Scottish from Falkirk. I'm 17. I feel that I'm Scottish and I also feel European, but I don't think of myself as British at all. It doesn't mean anything to me. 2C. The 7 Natural Wonders of America. Exercises 6 and 7.
Well, we get about 5 million visitors to the Grand Canyon every year. That number of visitors can bring a lot of problems. The worst problem is the amount of traffic that we get around the edges of the park. There are long lines to get in the gates, and the pollution from the cars can sometimes cause clouds that obscure the view of the canyon, so people can't see anything. And the traffic pollution can also erode the rocks themselves. Around May and June, it gets really hot and dry in the canyon, and forest fires are a big problem. A lot of these fires start naturally, of course, but a lot are started by visitors' campfires or cigarettes. And campers often give food to the wild animals, which is a big mistake. Some of the food we eat is dangerous to animals, and the animals also start to depend on humans for food. They become too friendly, which isn't good for them. The most recent environmental problem is the problem of noise from helicopters and small airplanes. There are tourist flights over the canyon from dawn to dark, and it's impossible to escape from their noise. A lot of people want to see a reduction in the noise levels in the park.
E. Town and Country. Exercises 7 and 8.
My name's Alice Hopkins and I live in Gladwell, in Yorkshire, in the north of England. There are about 500 people in Gladwell, but there are no facilities at all. We used to have a shop with a post office, but that closed about a year ago because everyone went to the local supermarkets to do their shopping. We've got a church, of course, and a pub, but the pub has lost a lot of customers recently. If business gets any worse, then we might lose the pub too. The big advantage of living here is that it's a really friendly place. People like to help their neighbours. Not everybody, of course. You still get some unfriendly people. But in general, the atmosphere is very friendly. There's a town near the village called Halifax. It's only 8 miles away, and my friend and I go there every Saturday. But we can't go in the evenings because there aren't any buses from the village after 6 o'clock. There are only 3 buses a day from Monday to Saturday, and no buses at all on Sundays. So sometimes you can feel really isolated if you live in one of the villages. But I would never want to live in a large town. I like village life. It's quiet and peaceful, and I think you need that these days.
Module 3. Links with the past. 3C. The British at War. Exercise 8.
So, Betty, how old were you when the war started?
I was 12 when war broke out and 18 when it finished in 1945.
What can you remember about the day that Britain entered the war?
I can remember it very clearly. It was a Sunday, September the 3rd, 1939, and it was a beautiful day. Mum was making the Sunday dinner in the kitchen, and I was helping her. Mr. Chamberlain, the Prime Minister, came on the radio. Mum sent me to fetch Dad in from the garden. We all sat in the kitchen and listened to the radio. The Prime Minister said that we were at war with Germany.
What implications did that have for your family? Did your father have to go off to war, for example?
Oh, no, my dad was quite old, in his late 50s, so he didn't have to go. He also worked as a printer on the local newspaper, so he had quite an important job during the war.
Which town was this in?
In Bath.
And Bath was bombed during the war, wasn't it?
Yes, that's right. There were 2 nights of bombing in April 1942. It was terrible. 400 people were killed. But luckily, we were all right, and nobody that we knew was killed.
What do you remember about the end of the war?
It was just a relief, really. People just wanted to get back to normal. Anyway, I was just starting my training to be a nurse, so I was very busy with all that.
And how do you feel now? About Britain's part in the war, I mean. Do you think that it was necessary? That it was justified?
Oh, yes, absolutely. We had to fight. We had to defend our country. It was as simple as that. Nobody questioned it at all.
3D. History at the movies. Exercises 5 and 6.
I got us a video for tonight.
Oh, great. What did you get?
I got The Patriot. Mel Gibson's in it.
Oh, I've already seen that. Sorry. You watch it if you want.
What's it like?
Well, I didn't like it very much, but the main character's good. Mel Gibson plays a guy who fought in the French and Indian Wars, and he's really sick of war. So when the War of Independence starts, he isn't interested. But then the British start doing terrible things, and he decides that he has to fight.
So it's a good story, then?
Well, no, not really. The main story's okay, but it's very long. And there's a lot of stuff about his family that's really over-emotional and sentimental. And there are 2 love stories that just aren't very interesting. They take your attention away from the main story.
Oh.
And the dialogue is terrible. It's too emotional, and sometimes it sounds really modern.
Is there anything good about it?
Oh, yes. It looks terrific. The photography's wonderful. It's a very beautiful film. The settings and the costumes are great.
So it's realistic. I mean, as a historical film.
Well, no, I didn't think so.
How do you mean?
Well, I thought it was too simplified. The British were all really horrible and violent, and the Americans were all good and honorable. It was too black and white. Oh, and some of it was too modern. Like the Mel Gibson character had a plantation, but he didn't have any slaves on it. That sort of thing was ridiculous.
3E. The USA. Making the news in the 20th century. Exercise 3.
Okay, Let's see how you all did in our 20th century quiz. If you remember, I gave you the top 10 news stories of the last century and you had to put them in chronological order. So, here we go. The first event was the flight of the Wright brothers in their first plane. That was in 1903, just a couple of years into the century. Then next, obviously, is the First World War, which began in 1914. After that, we have women in the USA being given the right to vote, which wasn't until 1920. Then soon after that, we have the beginning of the Great Depression, or the Wall Street crash, in 1929. The bombing of Pearl Harbor comes next in 1941. And the next two are quite easy, because they happened in the same year. That's the discovery of the Nazi concentration camps and the dropping of the atomic bomb. Both 1945, as I'm sure you knew. Into the 1950s now, with the end of racial segregation in our schools in 1954, and finally the assassination of JFK, President John F. Kennedy, in 1963, and the first moonwalk in 1969.
Module 4. States and Systems. 4A. UK Parliament. Tradition and Change. Exercise 6. 1.
Excuse me, could I ask you if you're old enough to vote?
Me? Yes, I am. I'm 22.
Okay, can I ask you some questions?
Yes, I suppose so.
Thanks. Now, how would you describe your attitude to politics? Are you very interested in politics? Just interested in politics? Not very interested? Or not interested at all?
Oh, I have to say not very interested, I'm afraid.
Not very interested. So, have you ever voted in an election?
Oh, yes. I voted in the general election 2 years ago.
And what about the local elections?
What about them?
There are some local elections next week. Will you vote?
Local elections? No, I'm not interested in them. I think they're a waste of time.
Have you heard about the recent proposal to lower the voting age to 16?
No.
Well, there's a bill proposing to let people have the vote at 16 instead of 18. Do you think that would be a good idea?
Yeah, seems like a good idea to me. It might make people learn a bit more about politics when they're still at school.
So, you think the voting age should be changed?
Yes, I do.
2.
Excuse me, could you answer a few questions for me?
Oh, well, okay then. But you'll need to be quick.
That's okay. It won't take a minute. First, how old are you?
I'm 24.
Okay. Next question. How would you describe your attitude to politics? Are you very interested in politics? Just interested in politics? Not very interested? Or not interested at all?
Not interested at all.
Not at all?
No, politicians are all the same. I don't have time for any of them.
Have you ever voted in an election?
No, I haven't. What's the point?
Will you vote in the local elections next week?
No, I won't. I didn't even know about them.
Okay. Now, have you heard about the recent proposal to lower the voting age to 16?
Oh, yeah. They had it on the radio last night.
Do you think that the voting age should be lowered to 16?
No, I don't. I don't think 16-year-olds are old enough to know what they want. And I don't think many of them would be interested in voting anyway.
B. The ups and downs of the British monarchy. Exercises 7 and 8. 1. Gary.
I don't know how I feel about the monarchy, really. They've always been there. It's just something you're used to as a British person, having a queen and a royal family. The Queen's okay. She's always worked very hard, and I don't mind Princess Anne. But I don't like Charles particularly. I don't think about them much, to tell you the truth.
2. Emma.
I can't stand the royal family. They're a complete waste of money, in my opinion. Half of them don't do anything, and it's us that's paying for them with our taxes. They have no idea how the rest of us live, and they've got no place in the 21st century. It's time the monarchy was abolished.
Three. Linda. I think they do a fantastic job, especially the Queen. She's devoted her life to serving this country. I know they've had their difficulties recently, but they're really trying to modernise now. Look at Prince William and Prince Harry. They're really popular. And they're going to make sure that the monarchy survives. Module 5. Education. 5B. Students at home and abroad. Exercise 6.
Rachel, have you seen this advert in the paper?
Which one?
This one for gap year trips, Green Force.
Oh yeah, I saw it.
I think it seems like a great opportunity. I'm going to contact them.
I'm not so sure.
Why not? Look at all the great places you can go. I'd love to go to the Caribbean. And you get to do really useful conservation work while you're there. So it isn't just a holiday.
Exactly. And how much do these trips cost?
Just a minute. Let me see. Here we are. The expedition to the Bahamas is for 10 weeks and it costs £2,750.
So, let me get this right. You're working for them, but you pay them £2,750?
Yes.
Forget it. Who wants to pay someone to give them a job?
I don't think of it like that. I definitely want to do something like this for my gap year. I want to see the world and do some useful work. And I don't mind paying for it.
I think you're mad.
So what do you want to do before you start uni?
I'm going to get some work experience in this country. Some paid work experience. I don't want to start uni without any money.
5C. High school culture. Exercise 7.
Hi, Paul. Listen, I'm glad I've bumped into you. I'm reading this great book at the moment. It's set in an American high school, and I wanted to ask you about some things in it.
Okay, fire away.
Well, there's this word, sophomore, that keeps coming up. The kids in the story are all supposed to be sophomores. What's that all about?
That's easy. Sophomores are second-year students at high school. You start high school when you're 14, so sophomores are 15 or 16.
I see. Now, the main character in the story is a cheerleader.
You know what that is, right?
Oh, yes. Cheerleaders dance and shout at football matches.
Well, any sports game, really. They entertain the crowd, and they support their team.
Okay, right. Well, this character, the cheerleader, has to perform at her school team's homecoming.
Yeah?
Well, what does that mean, homecoming?
Homecoming is the start of the football season. Old students come back to the school, and you have a day, or even a week, of celebrations.
Oh, right. Okay, then, after the prom. Yes, I do know what the prom is.
What is it then?
It's a special party that you have just before you leave high school.
Correct.
At the prom, she gets a copy of the school yearbook. What's that?
The yearbook is a book that's compiled about all the final year students, the seniors. They put in your photograph and a description of your personality and your interests.
(5E) Star pupils. Exercise 6.
Natasha, you're a pupil at Red Roof's theatre school. How old were you when you started at the school?
I was 8.
Wow, really?
Yes. Red Roofs takes pupils from 8 to 16.
I see. Now, I suppose your school day is a lot different from other students.
Well, the mornings are pretty much the same as at an ordinary school. We start lessons at 8:30, and we have normal academic subjects all morning. Then, after a quick break for lunch, we study performing arts in the afternoons. That's where our day is different, obviously.
So, what type of thing do you study in the afternoons?
Oh, you can do speech, drama, singing, and different types of dance. Ballet, modern dance, tap dance, jazz dance, all kinds of things.
It sounds really interesting. Do you go out on trips to see shows and plays too?
Yes, we do. Our teachers take us out quite regularly to museums, theatres, anywhere that's useful for our courses.
Now, what about exams? You have to do them, I suppose.
You're not kidding. We do loads of exams. There are the school's own exams every summer. They're mostly practical, and we take those at the school's theatre, the Novello Theatre. Then we have to do national dance exams too. We follow the Royal Academy of Dance syllabus.
But what about normal academic exams, like other kids do?
Oh, we do those too. Senior students do GCSE exams when they're 16, just like everyone else.
Module 6. Global Markets. 6A. Overworked and underpaid. Exercise 7. Well, my name's Jenny Wright. I'm a registered nurse and I work at the Princess Margaret Hospital in Swindon. I manage one of the children's wards there. I'm responsible for the other 7 nurses and for organising their shifts. The nurses do shifts on a rotational basis. That means that they work 5 weeks of day shifts and then 1 week of night shifts. There are a couple of hours each day where the shifts change over. Every morning, I go round the ward to check the new admissions and talk to the staff and patients. We have 22 ordinary beds and 10 intensive care beds. I try to check all the patients' records before the consultants come round, which is usually at about 10 o'clock. In the afternoons, I do paperwork and have meetings with nurses or doctors. The last thing I do before I go home is to check that there are beds free for any emergency admissions in the night. 6D. When the tourists stayed away. Exercise 6.
Good morning. How can I help you?
Well, I'd like to book a holiday to the States, please.
Certainly, madam. I'll just get a form. Now, I'll need some personal details, please. First of all, your name.
Anne Morris. That's Anne with an E.
So, A-double-N-E. And the surname was?
Morris, but it's spelt M-A-U-R-I-C-E.
Okay. And your address?
79 London Road.
And that's here in Bristol?
Yes.
79 London Road, Bristol. I need your date of birth, I'm afraid.
OK, it's the 17th of May, 1965.
Thank you. And you're British?
Yes, I am.
So, you want to go to the USA?
Yes, Florida to be specific.
OK. So Florida is your number 1 preference. Do you have a second choice if we didn't have anything available in Florida?
No, not really. It's just Florida I'm interested in.
That's fine. Now, how many people are we talking about here?
3. That's myself, my husband and our daughter.
And how old is your daughter?
She's 11.
OK. So that's 2 adults and 1 child. When would you like to fly out?
Ideally on July the 28th. And we'd like to stay for 10 days and come back on August the 7th.
OK. Now, what type of accommodation are you looking for?
Self-catering, please. It could be a house or an apartment. We don't mind.
That's fine. Any special requirements about accommodation? Or anything else?
Oh, well, we'd like to be near the beach or to have a swimming pool. That's essential.
Sure. Now, let's see what we've got on the computer. I've got quite a few sites.
6E. UK plus EU equals OK. Exercise 5. 1.
What are you having, Mike? A pint?
Yes, please, Sarah.
What about you, Phil?
Just half a pint for me, please. I'm driving.
Fiona?
I'm really thirsty. I don't think I want anything alcoholic. I think I'll have a pint of orange and lemonade.
OK then, that's a pint and a half of John Smith's, an orange and lemonade for Fiona.
2.
Hi, Mum.
Hello, Robert. And you brought Jason. How lovely.
Hi, Gran.
Hello, Jason. Oh, haven't you grown? How tall are you now, dear?
I'm 1 metre 60.
Oh, dear, that doesn't mean anything to me. What's that in feet and inches?
That's about 5'3", Mum.
5'3"? You'll soon be as tall as your dad. And you know that your granddad was even...
3.
I'd like to change these pounds into euros, please.
Certainly, sir.
What's the conversion rate today?
Let me see, it's 1.44 euros to the pound.
OK, that sounds fine.
So you've got £250 here, that's 360 euros. How would you like the money?
Oh, 300 euro notes, please, and the rest in 20s.
4.
How much is that ham, please?
This one here, that's £4.40 a kilo. That's about £2 a pound.
Oh, OK. Can I have about 6 ounces, please?
That's just under 7 ounces. Is that OK?
Yes, that'll be fine, thanks.
Module 7. Sport and leisure. 7B. Extreme sports. Exercises 6 and 7.
Yeah, well, I've been base jumping for a good few years now. But the first time I tried it was back in 1999. I went with my friends Keith and Sam to Jackson Ridge, which is out in the bush, about a day's drive from Sydney. I'd got 180 parachute jumps behind me already, but I was pretty nervous about trying base jumping. My parachuting experience was really small compared to Keith and Sam's. Climbing to the top of the ridge was hard going because my equipment was really heavy. It weighed nearly as much as me. But it was worth it when we got to the top. The view was amazing. There's a big lake at the bottom of the ridge. That's why we chose it for my first jump. It's much safer if you land in water. The boys insisted that I jump first, so I just went to the edge of the rock, counted, ready, steady, go, and suddenly I was in free fall. It was a great feeling, but unlike skydiving, you have to open your parachute really early, so that feeling didn't last for long. I hit some strong wind, which made me panic for a moment, but then I calmed down and concentrated on my landing. And I landed right on target, in the water at the edge of the lake. I started cheering and shouting, but the celebrations didn't last very long. Keith jumped next. He landed really badly and injured himself. We had to call the air ambulance, and they took him to hospital for 3 days. So all in all, it wasn't a very good day, but I'll never forget it.
D. Popular television. Exercises 5 and 6.
OK, Tanya, so run this idea by us again.
Right, OK, Adam. What I'm proposing, basically, is a new reality show, along the lines of Big Brother, Pop Stars, Fame Academy.
Something interactive, you mean?
That's right. What we'll have is a group of young people who all want to be sports stars.
Good idea.
And we'll put them together in a training school for a month and...
Viewers will vote each week on who goes.
You've got it!
Would they all be doing different sports?
I think so, yes. I mean, you couldn't have just football or that would all be boys.
And we wouldn't get any female viewers. Yes, I see what you mean.
Would it get a good audience, do you think?
Yes, I think so. Obviously, we wouldn't just concentrate on the sports. We'd show lots about their private lives, their relationships, their personalities.
I like it. What would happen to the winner?
They'd get some sort of professional contract, or at least some professional training.
And would there be any possibility of a celebrity version, do you think?
No, I don't think so. I think the audience would like the idea of seeing ordinary kids getting the chance to be famous. 7E. Holidays. Exercise 5. OK, so where are we going to go this summer? Any ideas? We'll have to book it soon if we want to go in August.
I don't mind, as long as it's not that caravan park again.
Oh, Claire, you used to love going there.
Yeah, when I was about 6.
Oh, well, I suppose you are a bit old for it now.
Sophie's going to a villa in the south of France with her family.
Oh, that would be lovely.
Can we do that then?
You're joking. There's no way we could afford that, I'm afraid. Not in August.
It would be nice to go abroad.
Yes, it would. What about a package holiday?
Well, it would make things easier, and they are quite cheap.
Great! Can we go to Mallorca?
No, thanks. I want a bit of peace and quiet on my holiday. How about Greece?
It sounds good to me. Claire?
Yeah, it sounds nice.
OK then, I'll have a look down at the travel agents tomorrow. 7F. English everywhere. Australia. Exercise 7.
I've only done this sport 4 times because it's quite expensive, but I absolutely love it. We go up to Cairns, which is in Queensland and not far from where I live. There's a lot of equipment and it can be dangerous, so you have to do a course before they actually let you dive from a boat. When you start, you have to spend 2 days in a swimming pool learning how to use the oxygen tank, and then finally they take you out onto the ocean in a boat. It's an incredible experience, being under the water, seeing all the fish and the coral, and it's really quiet and relaxing. All you can hear is the sound of your breathing and the bubbles.
Module 8. The Arts. 8C. West End Musicals. Exercise 7. Thank you for calling the ticket hotline for the Dominion Theatre. Ticket information for We Will Rock You is as follows. Evening performances start at 7:30. For midweek performances from Monday to Thursday, tickets are available at the following prices: £12.50, £22.50, £32.50 and £40. For the Friday evening performance, tickets are priced at £12.50, £27.50, £37.50, £42.50 and £45. For the Saturday evening performance, tickets are priced at £12.50, £27.50, £35 and £50. There is also a Saturday matinee performance starting at 2:30 p.m. Ticket prices are the same as for Saturday evening. 8D. Hollywood Kids. Exercise 5.
Now, today's featured Hollywood star is Haley Joel Osment. That might not be a name that you're familiar with, but if you've seen any of his films, you'll certainly remember him. Because Haley is still only a teenager. He was born on the 10th of April, 1988, and his first film was called Mixed Nuts, which he made when he was only 6 in 1994. But the film that you'll all remember him in is The Sixth Sense, which he made in 1999 with Bruce Willis. What a fantastic film that was! And he's been in plenty of other films too. In Forrest Gump, also in 1994, he plays Tom Hanks' son, and in 1996, he appeared in a film called Bogus, with Whoopi Goldberg and Gerard Depardieu. In 2001, he made a film with Jude Law called AI. That's short for Artificial Intelligence, where he played a robot boy. And that's only the beginning. He's already had an Oscar nomination for The Sixth Sense, and he's certainly got a great future ahead of him.
Module 9. Communication and Technology. 9A. The UK Press. Exercise 8. 1.
I'm too busy to read a daily newspaper, but I buy newspapers at the weekend. On Saturday I buy The Guardian, and on Sunday I buy The Times. I like The Guardian because the writers have the same political views as me, and I like The Times on a Sunday because it has lots of different sections and magazines. I stay in bed all morning reading it.
2.
I get The Sun every day during the week, from Monday to Friday. I like it because it's quick and easy to read. I can read it in my lunch hour, and its sports reports are really good.
3. I get the Daily Mail every day, including Sunday. There's a lot to read in the Mail. It's a really full newspaper. As well as all the news stories, there are lots of articles about famous people, fashion, gardening. It's like a newspaper and a magazine combined. 9B. Texting. Exercises 6 and 7. 1. Adam.
I've got a mobile, but I don't use it every day. I just use it a few times a week to see what my friends are doing and if they want to meet up that night. I always send texts. I hardly ever make calls. If you send a text, you can send the same message to a lot of people at the same time. It's much more convenient.
2. Hayley.
I use my mobile every day, probably about 6 or 7 times a day. But I use it for making phone calls too, not just for sending texts. I only text if I've got something private to say. That's when it's useful. You don't want everyone listening to your personal messages.
3. Elizabeth.
I never use my mobile for making calls. I just send texts, and I mean a lot of texts, probably about 20 a day. Some of the messages are quite long too. That's why I prefer texting. It's cheap to send long messages by text, but it would be expensive to make long phone calls.
4. William.
I send quite a lot of text messages, about 10 a day, I suppose. I don't phone many people on my mobile, just my parents. I find it easier to text people than to phone them because, well, I'm quite shy and sometimes I don't know what to say on the phone. It's easier to put your feelings in writing, especially if you're sending messages to girls.
Module 10. Society. 10A. Positive discrimination. Exercise 7.
Edinburgh University is looking for ways to bring in more students from poorer areas in response to criticism that it is an elitist institution with an image as exclusive as Oxford, Cambridge and St Andrews. To achieve its goal, Edinburgh is planning some radical changes to its admissions process. From next year, the university will award points for a student's family background as well as their exam results. Students will be graded on such factors as their motivation and personality, their school and their parents' jobs. Extra credit will be given if no one in the applicant's family had been to university. There will also be extra credits for disabled people and for students whose education has been disrupted by family tragedy or some other traumatic event.
10D. Working Mothers. Exercise 7. Alison.
I have 2 children, Gregory, age 3, and Rosie, who's 9 months old. I work full-time as a lawyer in the city, so I take them both to Daisy's daycare center. I drop them off on my way to work at 8:30, and then I pick them up again at 5:30. That's 5 days a week, of course. I'm quite happy about leaving them in daycare because I know that they really enjoy it there. They have a great time, and the assistants are always doing really interesting activities with them. And I still get to have a lot of fun with them in the evenings and on weekends.
Beth.
I have a little boy, Aaron, who's 2.5. He's been at Daisy's since he was a year old. Luckily, I only work part-time at home, so Aaron only has to go to daycare for 3 days a week. I take him there at 9 o'clock and pick him up at 4 o'clock. I have to admit that I've never really been totally happy about putting him in daycare, although he loves it. You have this permanent guilty feeling, and I think you miss a lot of their development, which is a pity.
Module 11. Links to Literature. 11A. William Shakespeare.
Once more unto the breach, dear friends, once more, or close the wall up with our English dead. In peace, there's nothing so becomes a man as modest stillness and humility. But when the blast of war blows in our ears, then imitate the action of the tiger. Stiffen the sinews, summon up the blood, disguise fair nature with hard-favoured rage. Then lend the eye a terrible aspect. On, you noblest English, whose blood is set from fathers of war-proof, fathers that, like so many Alexanders, have in these parts from morn till even fought and sheathed their swords for lack of argument. Dishonour not your mothers. Now attest that those whom you called fathers did beget you. Be copy now to men of grosser blood, and teach them how to war. And you, good yeoman, whose limbs were made in England, show us here the mettle of your pasture. Let us swear that you are worth your breeding, which I doubt not. For there is none of you so mean and base that hath not noble lustre in your eyes. I see you stand like greyhounds in the slips, straining upon the start. The game's afoot. Follow your spirit, and upon this charge cry, God for Harry, England, and St. George!
From Henry V, Act 3, Scene 1. 11B. William Wordsworth. Composed upon Westminster Bridge, September the 3rd, 1802. Earth has not anything to show more fair. Dull would he be of soul who could pass by a sight so touching in its majesty. This city now doth like a garment wear the beauty of the morning. Silent, bare, ships, towers, domes, theatres, and temples lie open unto the fields, unto the sky, all bright and glittering in the smokeless air. Never did sun more beautifully steep in his first splendour valley, rock, or hill. Ne'er saw I, never felt, a calm so deep. The river glideth at his own sweet will. Dear God! The very houses seem asleep, and all that mighty heart is lying still. I wandered lonely as a cloud. I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high o'er vales and hills, when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils. Beside the lake, beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. Continuous as the stars that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way, they stretched in never-ending line along the margin of a bay. 10,000 saw I at a glance, tossing their heads in sprightly dance. The waves beside them danced, but they outdid the sparkling waves in glee. A poet could not but be gay in such a jocund company. I gazed and gazed, but little thought what wealth the show to me had brought. For oft, when on my couch I lie in vacant or in pensive mood, they flash upon that inward eye which is the bliss of solitude. And then my heart with pleasure fills, and dances with the daffodils. 11H. Wilfred Owen. Parable of the Old Man and the Young.
So Abram rose and clave the wood, and went and took the fire with him, and a knife. And as they sojourned, both of them together, Isaac the firstborn spake and said, My father, behold the preparations, fire and iron, but where the lamb for this burnt offering? Then Abram bound the youth with belts and straps, and builded parapets and trenches there, and stretched forth the knife to slay his son. When lo, an angel called him out of heaven, saying, Lay not thy hand upon the lad, neither do anything to him. Behold, a ram caught in a thicket by its horns. Offer the ram of pride instead of him. But the old man would not so, but slew his son, and half the seed of Europe, one by one.
11J. Dylan Thomas. Do not go gentle into that good night. Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rave at close of day. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Though wise men at their end know dark is right, because their words had forked no lightning, they do not go gentle into that good night. Good men, the last wave by, crying how bright their frail deeds might have danced in a green bay. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Wild men who caught and sang the sun in flight, and learned too late they grieved it on its way, do not go gentle into that good night. Grave men near death, who see with blinding sight, blind eyes could blaze like meteors and be gay. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. And you, my father, there on that sad height, curse, bless me now with your fierce tears, I pray. Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Copyright Pearson Education Limited, 2004.